So Lire has her doctorate in sustainability. When I met Lire, she had been working in Germany in the private sector on integrating sustainability into business practices, as well as in South America, working on issues of the Sustainable Development Goals in local sites, and had started her own business in Spain to bring happiness to Spain, looking at Action for Happiness and even the work that we've been doing with the Happiness Alliance. And she's also written this book that integrates sustainability, happiness, mindfulness in a beautiful way. So this is just a little bit about Lire. You can tell that she's somebody who has a very, very wide scope of knowledge and understanding of sustainability and happiness.
Hello, everyone. I'm Lady Diarte, and I'm very happy to be here today with you all to talk a little bit, sorry, about SDGs and happiness. The presentation that I have prepared for today is based on an article that Laura Musikansky and myself have been working together this year, and we are going to publish in the International Journal of Community Wellbeing. The title of the paper is Bridging the Gap Between the Sustainable Development Goals and Happiness Metrics. And the objective of the talk today is to better understand the interactions between the happiness metrics and the SDGs and explore ways of promoting synergies between these two frameworks. The index of our presentation today, first, I will give a short overview about the SDGs. I'm sure that all of you are familiar with it. After that, I will present what we call the Aggregated Happiness Index. It's a metric that we have developed based on different metrics that are available at the different geographical levels. Later, I will show the results of the benchmark that we have done between the SDGs and the Aggregated Happiness Index. And finally, we will discuss what we call the SDGs for happiness. First, let's have an overview about the SDGs. As you know, the SDGs were agreed upon by United Nations in 2015, and they provide a shared blueprint for people, planet, prosperity, and profit. And the SDGs are composed of 17 goals, 169 targets, and 232 indicators. And as today, different countries, organizations, and businesses are taking different achievements and progresses towards these SDGs. Let's have a look to the Aggregated Happiness Index that we have elaborated. We built this Aggregated Happiness Index because, as you know, there is not a universal accepted happiness metric. And to elaborate this index, what we did is to select 5 indexes that are already in place, and we selected these indices based on the scope, the use, and the availability of data collected. The indices that we were using to create our Aggregated Happiness Index is the World Happiness Report, the OECD's House Life, the European Union's Eurostat Quality of Life Indicators, Bhutan's Gross National Happiness Index, and United Kingdom's measurements of national well-being. What we did is to aggregate the indicators of the different indexes, and we selected those indicators that were at least in 2 of the 5 indices that we selected for this study. And what we did as well is to distinguish between the objective and the subjective indicators. Objective indicators are those that are based on observable phenomena, for example, donations or volunteering, and subjective indicators cannot be observed, and people need to report on them. I would like to show you the domains that we have identified. They are community and social support, culture, economic standard of living, education, environment, governance, health, housing conditions, safety, subjective well-being, time balance, and work. These are the 12 domains of the Aggregated Happiness Index. And here I would like to show you a little bit about the domains and especially the indicators that the different indices that we have been working with are using in their respective frameworks. As you can see, the different indices use different numbers of indicators. The World Happiness Report used in total 8 indicators, and the UK framework used 41. So we can see that when the geographical scope is more ambitious, the number of indicators is higher. You can see that the distribution of the indicators is quite even between the different indices. Here, it's important to remark that in the World Happiness Report, 50% of the 8 indicators, so we have 4 indicators, are related to the subjective well-being, and the rest of in the rest of the frameworks that we have been analyzing, we can observe small representation in housing conditions and safety in the Bhutan Gross National Happiness Index, and a high representation of the economic standard of living in the UK. And also we see that the culture is only considered in Bhutan and UK and is not considered in other indices. Now I would like to show you the indicators that we have identified in for the Aggregated Happiness Index. This you can see that first, in the first column, we have identified the total number of indicators related to the domain that we are talking about, and later we show the number of indicators that are occurring at least twice. So we have found in at least 2 indices. So for community and social support, in total we found 5 indicators, but only 4 are in 2 indices. And the indicators that we have found for this domain are support network, that is the only indicator that is in all the indices that we have studied. And we have identified as well satisfaction with personal relationships, volunteering, and community, that in terms of relationships and feelings of belonging. You can see in brackets the framework where we found these indicators. For culture, we found in total 4 indicators, but there was only 1 present in 2 indices, and this is sociocultural engagement and participation. For the economic standard of living, there were 8 indicators, and there were 4 that we are using in our Aggregated Happiness Index. These are income per household, income wealth, income per capita, and satisfaction with finances. For education, in total, for the Aggregated Happiness Index, we have 2 indicators, which are skills in terms of human capital, including literacy, and also educational attainment. For environment, there were 9 indicators. We selected 2, which are environment, pollution, including noise and waste from households, and protected areas and wildlife. For governance, there were in total 7 indicators, 2 were selected, and these are social trust, which is confidence in businesses and government and perceptions of corruption, and civic engagement, voter turnout and participation. For health, there were 6 indicators in total. We selected 4: life expectancy, self-reported health, mental health, and disability. For housing condition, the 2 indicators we have are housing quality and satisfaction with housing. For safety, we have crime in terms of crime rate, feeling safe walking alone at night. The last domains, we have subjective well-being. We found 7 indicators. We selected 4, which are life satisfaction, positive affect, negative affect, and generosity. For time balance, we have 2 indicators: work-life balance, including leisure time and working hours. And for work, there were 2 indicators selected for the Aggregated Happiness Index, which are jobs in terms of employment rate and job satisfaction. In total, as you can see, we found 71 indicators. We have selected 1. There were only 1 indicator that was present in the 5 indices that we were working with, and there were 7 in 4 indices, 8 indicators in 3 indices, and 15 in 2 indices. In total, of the 31 indicators that we have identified, 58.1% were objective indicators, and then 41.9% were subjective indicators. Now, I would like to show you the benchmark that we have done between the SDGs and the Aggregated Happiness Index. We have done that at the goal of the main level and also at the indicator level. And we have done this first in a qualitative way and later in a quantitative way. We have established 4 types of intersections. We have determined to which extent one intersection could be covered if it's the issue that we are analyzing is the same in both frameworks, in the SDGs and in the Aggregated Happiness Index. Then we rate that as green, and in the quantitative assessment, we give it 3 points. It's the maximum amount of points that we can give according with this methodology. We assess as partially covered when there were some overlaps between the indicators or the goals, but it's not fully covered. And then it was yellow with 2 points. Poorly covered, it means that there are some indirect or poor interaction between the 2 indicators of or goals that we are analyzing, and this is orange, and we give 1 point. And we consider that it's not when it's not covered, it's red, and then we give it 0 points. First, I would like to show how the aggregated happiness domains are covered by the SDGs. As you can see in green, these are the aggregated happiness domains that are very well covered by the SDGs. And in red, you can see those domains that are not covered. These are not covered at the goal level, and these are the community and social support, culture, subjective well-being, and time balance. And now, if we look at how the SDGs are covered by the Aggregated Happiness Index domains, we can see that most of the SDGs are covered, directly covered, with the exception of SDG number 5, gender equality, SDG number 9, about industry, innovation, and infrastructure, and SDG number 12, which is about responsible consumption and production. Now, I would like to go to the indicator level. Here you can see how the domains that we have identified in the Aggregated Happiness Index are covered by the SDGs. You can see that there are some domains that are very well covered. For example, economic standard of living could be covered 75%. Also, education and environment has a very high rate, and safety has the highest rate. On the other hand, at the indicator level, we find that the community and social support is not covered. We have seen that as well at the domain level. Health is poorly covered, subjective well-being is not covered, and time balance is poorly covered. Here, I would like to highlight that the health was covered at the domain level, but is not covered at the indicator level because the indicators are different. And the aggregation of the coverage is 48.6%, and we see that 61% of the objective indicators of our Aggregated Happiness Index are covered by the SDGs, but only 17.9% of the subjective indicators are covered by the SDGs. Considering that, I would like to discuss a little bit our findings. The scope of this work was not discussing to which extent the SDGs are going to promote happier societies. What we found is that as the SDGs are proposed with the system of goals and indicators, we want to know if the achievement of the SDGs will imply happier societies, because we don't have means to measure to which extent societies will be happier or not. We see that the SDGs and happiness metrics might be used separately or synergistically. If we use them in a separate way, this could be at the expense of human and capital resources, risk of generating confusion, and the need of prioritizing one framework over the another. And we have detected several opportunities of integrating happiness metrics with the SDGs. And they are that considering happiness within the SDGs, we give an ultimate purpose for the SDGs, which is promoting happiness. And this is very coherent with the Aristotle famous saying or idea that happiness is the ultimate goal of life. Also, we see that the integration could be very useful for policy purposes, because with that you can develop inclusive and holistic policies that address multiple needs and prioritize synergistically. The integration also provides a means for inclusiveness, since people need to participate because we need to get subjective data. Also, we can generate data to understand population, understand dimensions of population, establish priorities, and assess the impact of decisions and interventions. And finally, we see the opportunity of exploring means to balance competing goals, as we can know people's perceptions and we can take them into account. Because of that, we propose what we call the SDGs for happiness, which is a list of complementary indicators that could be used with the SDGs to assess happiness within a community. And these are: regarding community and social support, we need to consider volunteering, community relationships and feelings of belonging, satisfaction with personal relationships and support network. Regarding culture, we should consider sociocultural engagement and participation. With respect to economic standard of living, we need to consider satisfaction with finances. Regarding governance, we need to take into account civic engagement, which is both turnout and participation in government. Regarding health, the indicators to be considered are life expectancy, mental health, and self-reported health. With housing conditions, satisfaction with housing. Regarding subjective well-being, generosity in terms of donations, life satisfaction, negative affect, and positive affect. Regarding time balance, working hours, and work-life balance, including leisure time. And regarding work, we need to consider job satisfaction. I would like to highlight that this analysis is a conceptual one, is limited to the theoretical level. If this approach is going to be used, we need to adapt it to the particular community and circumstances that we are targeting to. This is a short overview of the work that we have been doing, Laura and myself. I really appreciate the time that you have put here to listen to it. The access to the paper is going to be for free and will be published in a few weeks. And I will be very happy to discuss and comment whatever is interesting for you. Thank you very much.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for that wonderful presentation. This is a time now for questions and answers. So we'll ask anyone who is watching, if you have a question, feel free to either write it in the chat bar or just simply unmute yourself and show your video, and we'll go ahead and go from there. Any questions from anyone? Well, while people are waiting, I just have a question for you. And I know you said you were already planning to come to the ISQOLS conference in September, which is pretty close to where you are in Granada, which we're really grateful for. In your, the very last slide, or the second to last slide, SDGs for Happiness, just wondering if any sort of issues of, there you go. Any communities that might be having limited freedom, if that was taken into consideration for any of those particular indices?
It doesn't sound familiar to me. Well, first, thank you for the question. No, it's not familiar to me. I think we don't have that indicator.
Okay, just curious. It might be something more aligned with number 6 with governance, civic engagement.
True. Yeah, it's not that we don't have it, it's that we didn't find it in the indices that we were exploring.
Okay.
So if you're looking at the happiness indices, that we didn't find it in there, but it is in the SDGs to a certain extent.
Mm-hmm.
And Ott, one of the, he gave a presentation at the last ISQOLS conference. He did quite a bit about freedom, and we know that the World Happiness Report does have a measure for freedom in there, a sense of freedom. But we were doing an aggregate, right, Lily? So
yeah, maybe you are right. Yeah, let me check.
So like as Lily said, this is a theoretical framework. So what we're not saying is that that these particular indicators are the ones that are most highly have the highest relationship to happiness. What we're saying are these are based on those that came up most frequently in the happiness indices that we used for the Aggregate Happiness Index, the AHI. So it's a methodology that is a beginning of one way to explore these connections. Liddy?
Perfect. Thank you, Lara. This point is very important, and I didn't mention it. And yeah, thank you. Yeah, exactly. There is not a subjective interpretation from Laura's and myself point of view about what is relevant for happiness. Our analysis is only about aggregating the happiness indicators and comparing them with the SDGs.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Good. Any other questions from our participants? Okay. Laura, did you have any final comments?
Well, Liddy, and I hope that we will both be in Granada and to meet you. To start, it would be nice to continue this work in sight and also theoretically. I think it's important work, and as I mentioned earlier, which may seem like it's far afield, but it's not. If you look at it in terms of the practical implications to all of our lives, that the Artificial Intelligence Roundtable, they're really focusing on the SDGs. That's this roundtable that's going to be happening in Dubai in a couple of weeks. So this issue of the SDGs and what do they measure, and the dearth of measurements that are looking at happiness, satisfaction with life, quality of life from a subjective, quote unquote, subjective, such a difficult word, yeah, subjective perspective is really important, that we bring this into the conversation. So thank you, Liddy, for a ton of work and your insight and intelligence that went into this.
Mm-hmm. Sally, do you have a question?
Yes, I was just trying to load up something, but we can leave that. My question, I tried typing it out, but I don't know that it's come through. And it's about the fact I work with communities. I'm actually in the UK. And interestingly, when I tried to sign up to this, I couldn't find UK on the list. So I had to say I was in Portugal, which is a fib. I'm in the UK, but I work with communities in community development, and I work with those who are compromised, quite often socioeconomically. And I've actually got a lot of interest in the groups that I work with. And I've been raising awareness about the sustainable goals and trying to kind of find out where there might be some ways in which raising awareness about the goals and helping people to feel like the little things they're doing are contributing to the goals. And just seeing the wonderful presentation, there were several goals on there that speak even more to the communities that I would work with, and that definitely includes well, the community one and housing. And I just wondered if there was any way or any movement that is happening or possible to connect a bit more with this fantastic work that's going on, because I feel that, you know, I think we could be missing a trick, or I might not have the right read on the whole situation, but I definitely have communities really keen to feel like their small actions mount to something, and they're really keen to learn more about the sustainable goals. So I just wondered, was there anything like that going on?
Thank you for the comment, Sally. What I know this analysis is the first analysis between the SDGs and the happiness metrics. To the extent I know, there is nothing published in this respect. Well, there are only some very vague comments at the goal or domain level, you know, that some institutions or organizations say that they are in the same direction, but this is at the goal level. It's not
Yeah.
at the indicator level. And here what we have learned is that the indicator level is very important,
Yeah, certainly.
right? And
Yes.
When we were checking, Laura and myself, with what was happening in this respect, we found very little. The only country that is doing integrating the SDGs and happiness is Indonesia. And I think maybe Laura can speak a little bit more about that.
Right. So there is room to try to perhaps develop some more grassroots work.
Yeah, this is only the very beginning.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'd be interesting if is Joe still on our call, but it would be interesting to hear what he says from his perspective. But I thought it was really fascinating in Indonesia. So this is not grassroots. This is the National Department of Planning is actually using subjective well-being indicators. They have their own happiness index to help them. They're taking that perspective to help them realize the goals of the SDG goals. Sally, if you were to put your email into the chat box, then I think probably two things. It would be really worthwhile for you and Lire to have a conversation. And the other is that I'll send you a link to the recorded talk by the Minister of Planning in Indonesia, where he talks about this, because I haven't seen anything published about it. I just learned about it at this talk. So, and it's pretty fascinating, and it's very innovative.
Okay.
Yeah. So
I'm just struggling to get my chat to come through, so I'm not completely sure if my email will come through successfully. But will there be a way afterwards, if not, that I can connect?
Yeah, you can take my email, Sally.
Yes.
If you want, you can send me an email here. Can you see it?
Yes.
And I can give you the reference Laura was talking about.
Yeah, perfect.
Thank you.
And also, if nothing else, Sally, Jill can connect us, right, Jill?
Okay, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes, and on that note, I'll be sending out a follow-up email after this webinar to everyone who's registered with today's contact information and everything you see on that screen.
We can, Jill, if you want, we can share the presentation. If this can be helpful for anyone,
Definitely.
I can send it to you.
That would be great. Thank you.
Sally, will you be at the ISQOLS conference in Granada?
I think I'm going to, after tonight, yes, I think I will be trying to get there.
Okay.
Good.
And it's until the 20th that you can still submit to present. So maybe you would like to present your concept.
Right. Lovely. Yeah.
January 20th is our abstract deadline.
Okay. Right. I need to find out about that then, for sure.
Wonderful. Any other questions from our group? And Laura, any other final comments from you?
Oh, we probably should have put stuff about the conference. So maybe you can send that out, and then I'll add it to the recording. So yeah, so our next webinar will be in March, and it will be with Erin, who will talk about the work that US PIRG, which is a rather strong and large NGO in the US that works on campuses and then in Washington, D.C., about bringing quality of life indicators to legislators in the United States, big challenge. And then we'll have Beth Allgood, who works for IFAW, IFAW, and I was looking at developing a happiness metric that really looks at that connection between treating animals well and treating ourselves well, where in many nations we're not treating animals very well in terms of how we prepare them for eating and other ways. So cutting edge work. All right.
Good.
And then last, if you know somebody or would like, if you would like to have your work as part of these webinars, as I mentioned, we're looking for women, and we like to focus on work that is bringing new perspectives and holistic and new perspectives. So,
Wonderful.
yeah.
Well, thank you, everyone. Leri, muchísimas gracias.
A ti.
Nos vemos en Granada, ¿verdad?
Sure. Por supuesto.
Bueno.
Well, I guess that you have your local contacts and you have everything. But in case that you need any local helping or supporting with anything, I can help you.
Oh, wonderful. Okay, yes, we are working with a group at Universidad de Granada, and but I will absolutely connect you with them for sure. We'll start that conversation. So thank you.
To you, thank you.
All right. Well, everyone, take care. Thank you so much, and we'll send out a follow-up email after the webinar. So thank you.
Thank you.
Goodbye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.